Hi everyone. Hope you are all doing great. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has observed the question is not whether AI will influence international peace and security, but how we will shape that influence. This question has never been more urgent. Just this month, in July 2026, the international community convened in Geneva for the first UN Global Dialogue on AI governance, while Chinese startups released open way models rivaling the best form of American labs. Developments that would have never seemed possible only a year ago. The debate on artificial intelligence (AI) is no longer confined to its technical capabilities or economic applications. It has expanded to find its place also within the very structure of international systems. AI now is embedded in the heart of statecrafts, from national security frameworks and decision making processes to negotiation strategies and even foreign policy outputs. Consider how, at the recent G7 summit, the chiefs of the world leading AI companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, descended in a sign of their growing geopolitical influence as artificial intelligence rises to the top of the global agenda. This was described as a single of where power sits. It's therefore important to assess whether AI can really be considered as a new actor in international relations. This question is crucial for understanding its profound implications for how states formulate national security strategies, how international institutions approach AI governance, and how the global community understands the nature of the contemporary geopolitical conflicts. Today, we will examine how AI is redefining the concept of agency in international relations, analyze the AI revolution through the lens of international relations theory, investigate the US China AI race as the great power competitions, address whether this competition constitutes a new Cold War, and conclude with reflections on the implications for the international order and governance. So let's start our talk for today. Traditional theories of international relations, foremost realism and liberalism, were grounded in the assumptions that the primary actors are sovereign states or transnational institutional entities. Yet, the rapid digital transformation have exposed the limitations of this view. Non-human systems have emerged that possess the ability to make complex decisions in the real time, even influencing a larger scale of collective behavior. The emergence of agentic AI represents a fundamental evolution from systems that provide intelligence to those that exercise agency, shifting from being a tool to participant. Agentic AI refers to artificial intelligence systems designed not merely to process and analyze information, but to pursue objectives and take action autonomously in order to achieve those objectives. These systems operate with a degree of independence, adaptability, and initiative that distinguish them from more conventional forms of AI. So we can say that there are three principal features that grant AI a degree of agency in international relations. First one being predictive and influential capacity. AI can analyze massive volumes of economic, political, and security data at speeds surpassing human capabilities. This capability has made AI indispensable for military forecasting and defense scenario planning. Militaries now rely on AI for operating drones and autonomous air defense systems, as well as for monitoring cyberspace in search for transnational threats. Second, relative autonomy. Some deep learning systems are capable of making tactical decisions without direct human intervention, opening the door to unexpected behaviors beyond the operator's control. Systems operating at machine speed can make and execute coordinated decisions faster than human operators can observe or can respond, potentially providing decisive advantages in contested environments. Third, impact on collective behavior, which is more importantly. Digital media algorithm now can shape public opinion, can influence the elections campaigns and protest, and restructure also the public sphere in ways that directly affect the state level political decisions. So, this also raises the urgent ethical questions. Who controls the algorithms that may dictate military and diplomatic or political decisions? Who holds sovereignty over the code that could dominate the fate of entire populations? Having said that, it's important to notice that AI hasn't become a fully fledged actor. It has its own limitations as well. For example, key limits to its agency remain that it still depends on human infrastructure for its design, maintenance, and financing, right? It lacks the independence, will, or interest. It has no political strategic project for its own apart from the one that we are using it, no matter how complex it becomes. Moreover, the global legal and political framework constitute to treat as a tool, not as an entity by itself, to which a legal or political responsibility can be assigned to. To speak or absolute agency is therefore still considered to be premature in this stage. Nevertheless, the integration of AI into the structure of the international relations carries far reaching implications for the classical concepts such as sovereignty, deterrence, and legitimacy. Sovereignty is no longer, for example, confined to control over territory and resources. The positions and development of algorithm has itself become a marker of national power. Deterrence is no longer limited to nuclear or conventional weapons as well. As races in AI now is considered to be very important factor in the balance of power in a manner that reminisces the early 20th century of the nuclear competition. Now, the relationship between AI and international relations is fundamentally the relationship between technology and international relations. Scholars have long recognized the impact of technology on state power and international system. Military technology is in particular has historically influenced state power and international relations. Nuclear technology dramatically enhanced the national power and became a crucial factor in balancing strategic relations among great powers. AI, however, differs from the previous technologies in several critical respects. First, AI competition is comprehensive, meaning that AI applications spans defense, security, economic development, and even social construction. Second, AI competition is revolutionary, meaning that AI possesses self-training characteristic that makes it developmental benefits transformative. Third, AI competition is strategic. AI development requires national level assessment, decision making, and mobilization, making it major priority at national and societal strategic level. AI gives technologically advanced states a greater advantage in foreign policy decision making and implementation, which may stimulate great powers to pursue power maximization. This may lead to the decline of liberal institutional relations theory and the resurgence of realism, particularly offensive realism. The arrival of AI era may challenge the mainstream positions of liberal theory and influence of the realism will return. This realist framing is evidenced in the US Great Divergence Report, released by the White House Council of the Economic Advisors on January 21st, 2026. The report frames that the current era as the second Great Divergence, mirroring the 19th century's Industrial Revolution, and declares that AI is a zero sum race for national security. where speed and scale are the only metrics that matter. The report argued that just as STEM power enabled a handful nations to achieve multi generational economic dominance, the rapid deployment of a massive compute and energy infrastructure will now dominate the next generations of the global power structure. Well, while for the liberal institutionalism offers a different or a counterpoint to the realist emphasis on the conflict. From this perspective, AI represents opportunities for international cooperation through institutions, norms, and regimes. United Nations, organizations for the economic cooperation and development, UNESCO, and G7 have all launched initiatives toward establishing shared norms and multilateral cooperation on AI. The UN has taken significant steps for this decision. The first global dialogue on AI governance was held in Geneva in July 2026. This followed the adoption of the Global Digital Compact and establishment of the UN General Assembly, backed independent international scientific panel on AI. The scientific panel published its first report on July 2026, warning that with growing evidence on deceptive AI behavior, science currently can't guarantee that as capabilities continue to increase, AI will not cause catastrophic harm. UN Secretary General Guterres outlined three priorities at the Geneva Dialogue: expanding AI capacity in developing countries, establishing international safety standards, and improving environment sustainability. The dialogue concluded with a call for the establishment of an inclusive, beneficial, and collaborative global AI governance system. However, the liberal institutions framework faces significant challenges in the AI domain. Traditional arms control, for example, is ill suited for AI governance, leading scholars to propose novel models for such as AI cartel to differentiate military from civilian applications. The dual use nature of AI, the same technologies that power civilians' innovation, can enable military applications, complicates governance, and has slowed progress in international negotiations, despite nearly a decade of debate. On the other hand, constructivist approach emphasize how AI is reshaping identities, norms, and discourses in international relations. The very language of sovereign AI reflects a strategic construction of autonomy and global discourse, where states and corporate actors invoke the language of autonomy while remaining embedded in US dominant infrastructural hierarchies. The geopolitics of AI thus constitutes not only competition for technological supremacy, but also a contest over a moral and institutional foundations of a global governance. Different governance paradigms are emerging, reflecting deeper contestation over values, norms, and the appropriate relationship between technology, state, and society. The United States and China are the world's leading powers in artificial intelligence, and each has global ambitions. As the AI development accelerates, so too do calls who regulates its responsibility. The United States now controls almost 75% of the global AI compute capacity, while China has 15% and EU 5%. However, in July 26 report shows that US scoring 78.4 and the China 60.4 in AI innovation. And you can see how the gap is narrowing rapidly. So the US and China are locked in race to be the first to achieve artificial general intelligence. The winner will benefit from faster economic growth, a more lethal military, and powerful new tool for economic statecraft. Now let's take a glance on which areas do China and US compete. First, computing power. The US has more supercomputers, and talented AI experts, with China close behind. But China has more electrical power, which is very important for running AI systems. Second, chip making and export rules. Since 2018, the US has tried to stop China from getting advanced chips by controlling exports. In January 2025, Chinese AI company called DeepSeek released a powerful AI model that affected US stock markets. In 2026, the US blocked more chip sales for Chinese companies, subsidiaries in other countries. As a result, Nvidia's share of the Chinese markets dropped from over 90% to nothing by May 2026. Model distillation. This is the technique that makes big AI model smaller and cheaper. It's now a key point in the US China AI fight. The US claims some Chinese companies are copying and shrinking American AI models without permission. In July 2026, US officials accused a Chinese lab called Moonshot of doing this. They warned that they might impose sanctions. China denies these accusations, saying that US is politicizing technology and that their claims are baseless. This dispute shows how the both countries see advanced AI as a strategic asset and security risk. They need to cooperate on safety standards, but tensions could also lead to retaliations and threaten upcoming talks between US and the Chinese leaders. Under President Trump's second term, USAI policy shifted to focus on dominating technology.
Whoever wins with AI is going to win. That's how big it is. So it's bigger than the internet ever was. It's bigger than anything ever was. So
In January 26, the US released a report called Great Divergence, emphasizing global leadership over safety. The US launched the strategic project, building 20 huge AI data centers across the country, funded by $500 billion from major companies. They have also fast tracked building power plants to supply energy for these centers. China AI strategy has been more consistent. Since 2017, China has seen AI as a vital for national strength, balancing economic growth and social stability. The AI race now involves access. Some countries favor open models that others can customize and use freely. In July 2026, China's Moonshot AI open sourced Kimi K3, one of the largest open models with 2.8 trillion parameters. It's third in intelligence after some US models, surprising many and challenging the idea that US is far ahead. This has caused debate in Silicon Valley. US companies like OpenAI want to keep models close to protect intellectual property and to avoid theft. Some Chinese firms are open, which worries US firms. However, leaders like Nevada's Jensen Huang and Meta's Mark Zuckerberg disagree with banning Chinese AI. Zuckerberg said the US shouldn't restrict the Chinese models, warning that too much control could hurt US innovation and competition. The US and China are shaping the world's rules for AI in different ways. The US wants to build an economy based on smart ideas and minds. China wants to create an economy based on machines and technology. Basically, the US focuses on controlling intelligence itself, while China wants to spread it everywhere to dominate the physical world. In July 2026, both countries announced new plans to show their different approaches. China's plans aim to work with other countries on AI, sharing data, technology, and rules to create an open and safe and fair global AI community. Nearly 30 countries signed an agreement to create a World AI Cooperation Organization, WICO, a group that compete with the US-led Pax Silica initiative. The US released a document called emphasizing the importance of AI for national security. A good way to understand their differences is this. The US sees advanced AI as a nuclear weapon, extremely powerful and dangerous, needing careful control, while China sees this as a nuclear energy, useful resource that can be shared and used widely. This shows how differently they see technology's power and its role in security and the global influence. The US China AI race has a global implications that extend far beyond the two competitors. A growing number of countries want to develop their own sovereign AI by gaining control over some or all of the key components of AI tech stack. Initiatives to advance sovereign AI are already underway worldwide. Today, the US and China dominate the full AI stack, leaving the rest of the world with a difficult implicit choice, aligned with one version of the stack or sit on the fence between the two. This concentration of power raises the specter of a new form of algorithm colonialism, where new countries or corporations dominate the development and deployment of AI systems, while others risk of being left as passive recipients of rules and technologies they had no part in shaping it. AI intensifies asymmetries of power and creates algorithm hierarchies that reinforce digital dependence, especially in the global south. As the UN dialogue highlighted, developing countries are particularly worried that, in the worst case scenario, the AI divide would leave them behind. And given the speed of the AI development, they may not even be able to recover and catch up with these developments. The growing disparities between the technologically advanced global north and the developing global south represents fundamentally challenge to the promise of AI for a force for global development. Meanwhile, Middle Eastern countries such as United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar are shifting from energy suppliers to key AI players. They are investing heavily in AI to diversify their economies, funding projects with oil revenues, building data centers, and purchasing advanced chips, acting as a neutral mediators. They aim to balance US and the Chinese interests. This also might consider to becoming influential in shaping future AI rules as well. The question of whether US China AI race constitute a new war in international relations is a center to understand its implications. The AI race is not a traditional war. It lacks the organized violence, territorial conquest, and formal declarations that characterize the conventional warfare, nor it's simply an arms race in the traditional sense, as it encompasses economic, technological, regulatory, and normative dimensions that extends far beyond military capabilities. However, it exhibits several characteristics of warfare by other means. For example, it is existential. The Great Divergence report frames AI as a zero sum competition where the winner will dominate the next century's global power structure. Both sides view this as a struggle for national survival in its strategic terms. Second, it involves offensive and defensive operations. Export controls, sanction threats, and accusations of IP thefts are all weapons in this competition. The distillation dispute with US officials threatening sanctions and China considering restricting overseas access to its models as a retaliations measures represents a new form in this conflict. Third, has also civilian casualties. The algorithmic colonialism that leaves developing countries depend on US or China AI infrastructure represents a form of structural violence against the global south. Fourth, it exhibits characteristic of both cooperation and conflict. This creates what has been called as a great power paradox. While the US and China compete aggressively for AI advantage, they also share interests in preventing catastrophic risk, establishing governance frameworks, and managing the global implications of AI development. Yet tensions such as retaliation accusations threaten to unravel even these limited cooperative efforts. Rather than a traditional war, the US China AI race is best understood as geopolitical innovation race, a competition for technological leadership that carries profound implications for national security, economic prosperity, and international order. Artificial intelligence is reshaping the global politics, influencing decision making, power projections, and security. The US China AI race is a new form of a great power competition, more than traditional war or arms race. It's a race for technological leadership with security, economic, and normative stakes. While both seeks to cooperate on risks and governance, recent tensions hinder to progress, risking a fragmented global AI order, exemplified by competing frameworks Pax Silica, and WICO. The UN is taking steps toward the global AI governance, but the challenge remains for the international community to develop transparent, fair, and collaborative regulations. As AI advances toward general intelligence, the stakes grow. Success depends on the transcending zero sum rivalry to build cooperative frameworks that guide AI's influence on peace and security. That was all for our today's talk. Thanks for watching and see you next time.